Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, I don't care that your mom is hurt, get your priorities straight. So you're the manager of my spare time now? Need help to do a flip? As you wish. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I don't care that your mom is hurt, get your priorities straight. So this happened about a year or so ago, but I was reminded about it earlier today while speaking to my old boss on Facebook. Before I get started, I want to apologize if this doesn't qualify as malicious compliance. It starts off weird, but the compliance is definitely there. So, here are the people involved. Me of course. Dan, my old boss, name changed of course. Karen, his boss, again, name changed. So, now that the roles are laid out, here we go. Warning, this is kinda long. I used to work as the residential manager of a house for people with special needs. I had previously worked in direct care and managed a house with a different agency, but moved to this new agency for a variety of different reasons. I've always worked in this field, I still do, and consider it my calling. It's very difficult work managing the house, as not only do you have to remember everything about each of the residents, referred to as the guys, but you also have to set the staffing schedule. Now, according to Karen, I had been hired to fix this house up. For a bit of background on the house, it had only been open for about a year, and the guys had just met when they moved in, so they didn't know each other very well and were constantly making each other angry. Most staff members weren't sure how to work with them due to the lack of training and lack of understanding of their unique personalities, so they just kinda let the guys do whatever they wanted. Beyond that, there was no accountability. For example, there was a house credit card that was to be used for food and another to be used for items like soap and cleaners. There was no way to keep track of purchases because staff hadn't been trained on how to sign the cards in and out, how to store receipts, and what to do with the card logs. Needless to say, the house was a mess from a managerial standpoint when I got there, and they had gone through 6 managers in the 1 year they had been open. As soon as I took the position, I began learning everything I could about the guys, from parents, old documentation, and contacts with their previous staff, and subsequently training my staff on what I learned. I also set concrete processes of documenting money spent, med administration, and training logs, because, yes, Karen hadn't instituted any training logs, so there was no proof that training had even happened. All of this work helped the house a lot and set us up in a good place, but it came at the price of almost all of my free time. Between all of the work I put in setting up systems in the house and all of the forced overtime I had to work, when someone calls out or doesn't show, someone else needs to stay to fill that spot, I ended up routinely working between 70 and 100 hours every week, without any overtime pay. Karen said that she would be there to step in if Dan and I needed something, but never once helped. This is important. Now all of that was basically just to say that I put in work for that job. Here's where Karen comes in. It's gonna start weird, but it circles around, so bear with me. I want to start by saying that Karen is beautiful, like really beautiful. So beautiful in fact, that her boyfriend in corporate just had to give her a director's position as soon as they started dating. That's a different story though. Anyway, Karen had a habit of flirting and making it very obvious that she was doing so. She would drop things on the ground while speaking with me, and then bend down slowly in front of me to pick it up while wearing short skirts with tight thongs. I never complained, but it did seem a bit unprofessional. At first I thought she was being overly friendly, then I realized that she was hitting on me and using her sexuality to get me to do more work around the job. I'm used to that kind of thing happening in this field, but Karen is by far the worst offender. It kinda came to a head one day when she made a comment about bigger guys being her type. Being a bigger guy, I kinda picked up on it and made a comment about the girl I had just started dating the time. She laughed it off and said that there was no title involved in my relationship, so she didn't care, but I said that I did. She backed off, but she was never really friendly with me again. Things started to go downhill once she realized that she couldn't control me like that, which was fine with me. Things were calm and the house was running smoothly, with normal hiccups, but fate likes to strike at the worst times. I got a call from my mom basically as soon as I got to work one day at like 8 a.m., saying that she had tripped over my ridiculously hyper dog and fell, and she was having a hard time breathing. I called Karen to tell her I was leaving and then rushed home. You'd think that someone would respond with empathy, but I was met with a cold "you'd better be back later today." Okay, whatever, she's probably having a bad morning. I take my mom to the walk-in orthopedic clinic about a half-hour away, and after a 2-hour wait they finally saw her and ordered x-rays. Problem is that they don't do x-rays on site, so we had to go to another orthopedic clinic to get them done in red. I called Karen en route to the second clinic and filled her in. She told me that I had work to do, and that I'd better get back as soon as I could. After another half-hour long drive, and another 2 hours waiting for the x-rays to be done, we sit and wait for them to call us back in to have them read. This is where it goes south. Karen calls me and I run outside to take the call. Here's an approximation of the conversation. Karen, where the hell are you? Me, I'm at the doctor with my mom, waiting for x-rays to be dash. Karen, cutting me off, you said you would be quick. Me, I had no idea it would take this long, I dash. Karen, save it, you're probably just trying to get a free day off. You really have to get your priorities straight. You have no idea how lazy you look. Me, yelling now, so, I work 90-hour weeks and I'm lazy? I fix the mess you allowed to build up and can't take my FING mother to the doctor for an emergency without being yelled at? Karen, don't you dash. Me, cutting her off, nah, I think you're right, I have to prioritize. Consider this my 2-week notice. Karen, but I dash. Me, click. I was shaking, but it felt great. She wanted me to prioritize, so I did. The job was suddenly much less important to me. I then found out that my mom had cracked her sternum and bruised a rib, less great. In speaking with Dan about the situation recently, I found out some fun things. My replacement has no idea what they're doing. They show up drunk/high, have no idea how to relate to the guys, and the staff don't respect them at all. My replacement's incompetence cost Dan his job. All of the work I had done to set up the systems for money management and medication administration was just tossed because replacement didn't want to keep up with it, so everything is back to the way it was before I got there. Half of the staff left, and the new staff have no idea what they're doing because there is once again no training for them. It's gratifying to know that the work I was doing was so necessary, but I do feel bad about the guys and think about them often. So you're the manager of my spare time now? I was employed at a small market radio station for many years a while back. I loved the actual work, but the people there were just terrible. Particularly the manager in this story. She spent 7 years pretending we were friends, working up from sales to sales manager and eventually station manager. And then one day she decided to make my job a completely miserable experience. Holding station meetings without me, creating recording sessions without putting them on my schedule, ignoring my reports of tech issues so things never got fixed. It was ridiculous how little managing she actually did. Basically there had been a build-up of her crap leading up to this story, and this was the first real time I put my foot down. Since we were a small staff, and I was the employee with the most years, I had a lot of responsibilities. The easiest way of describing my job was I did everything except sell ads. Every day had the same main responsibilities, but minor changes kept each day different. Punch in at 8 a.m. and co-host the final hour of the morning show, answer phones and the door all day, record ads and clients, edit shows, do the afternoon broadcast 1 to 5 p.m., pre-record the evening news block to air after I leave for the day. One day the morning show host decided we needed to talk about America's Got Talent. But by time he has this great idea, auditions were already 3 shows in. I had never watched the show before because I absolutely hated reality TV. But I thought, what could it hurt? And I went home that night to watch the week 4 episode. While it was entertaining, it was also an overly padded waste of time. But I did my homework and did the show the next morning and hyped it up like it was the greatest thing ever. Next week I forgot to watch. I go into work and the morning show host asks what I thought, and I panic for a second before telling him I didn't see it. Since I had about 20 minutes of morning news before I was live, I ran to my office and checked YouTube for a highlight reel. And there it was. An hour-long TV show whittled down to a 15-minute video. Perfect. When it was done, I moved to the broadcast studio and did a great recap of last night's episode. Even the host, who watched the entire show, thought I did a great job keeping up with him. 6th episode came around and this time I remembered it was on, but since I knew NBC was going to post the highlights for me tomorrow, I opted to spend my free time on something that I actually wanted to do. Next morning I go straight to the highlight reel and get caught up on every act that was important enough to talk about. Again, the show host thought I did a great job. But my manager didn't think it was good enough. She called me into her office to ask why I was purposely ignoring requests to watch the show. I asked her what difference does it make whether I watch the hour-long broadcast, full of commercials and long-winded filler to stretch the runtime, versus watching the highlight reel that is every high point and does the same job in 15 minutes. She said it makes a difference and wouldn't elaborate. She was always pulling that I'm right, and I don't have to tell you why crap. She then pointed out that next week was when judges began cutting acts, and there was going to be episodes every Tuesday and Wednesday for the rest of the broadcast and watching it was mandatory. How long are these episodes? I asked her. They're an hour each. And that's when I decided to put an end to this bullshit *T once and for all. So that's 2 hours of show prep each week. Do I mark that down on my time sheet as overtime, or am I expected to cut out at 3 p.m. on Fridays, so I don't go over my scheduled 40 hours? My manager's eyes bugged out like she never once expected me to demand payment for dictating how I spend my time outside of the office. I just stood there waiting to see if I was going to be making extra money, or getting an early start to the weekend. Suddenly the 15-minute highlight reel during regular paid office hours was good enough. Funny how that works, eh? Need help to do a flip? As you wish. I was recently reminiscing with a friend and remembered this little story that might fit on this subreddit. When I was about 12 years old, my mom used to put me in a martial arts class near our house, cause she needed to work. It was judo, and since all age groups were mixed, and the class was too small to really split up, we often had the kids do an hour, and just watch while the adults did their hour. The teachers meant well, and you learnt a lot by watching the older students train. Anyways, we had two teachers, the master and his highest-ranking apprentice. Master had a son, Michael, who attended all lessons, since he needed to babysit him anyway. He was about 2 years older than me. One day my mom called me to tell me she can't get me at the usual time, and I should stay an hour longer. This happened frequently, so no biggie. Michael and I were the only kids today, so we grew bored quickly. To shut us up, Master put a soft big mattress in a corner of the gym, and told us to just slide it around or jump on it or something. You know the ones, about half a meter thick, really soft and bouncy. We complied and hopped around for a while. Out of boredom I started doing rolls and flips, because why not? Michael was apparently not a fan of that, and try as he might he just couldn't do a flip. After some sulking he got really angry at me, told me to stop flipping around and showing off. Since he's the teacher's son, of course I stopped. He jumped and fussed, but he just couldn't get the height to completely flip, always landing on his back. After many failed attempts Michael got a bright idea. Why not flip from the side of the mattress onto the floor? It was about 50 centimeters from the ground, that should work, right? But he hesitated. Kinda high for a jump onto floorboards, huh? Then he ordered me to help me. How, you ask? Well, I should hold his hand, so he has something to hold on to when he falls. I said that will never work, cause his hand won't rotate. Hell rotate it, he says. You'll hurt yourself, I say. 14-year-old brain does not compute, and he threatened to tell his dad I hit him if I don't do it. Can't argue with that, so I gripped his hand tightly, sitting on my knees on the mattress. He was standing at the edge of the mattress, gathering all his strength for one mighty jump. And jump he did. To his credit, he actually did a front flip and landed on his feet. He couldn't savor his victory though, because while he did a front flip, his tightly gripped arm unfortunately did not. And that is the story on how I dislocated my judo teacher's son's shoulder. His dad was livid, but apparently believed me when I told him it was Michael's idea. His son was crying and screaming, but fell on deaf ears with Master. Either as punishment or because he didn't want to risk calling an ambulance and getting in trouble, he just freaking relocated his son's shoulder right then and there. That crunch when the sockets realigned still haunts my nightmares. Fortunately, the other teacher convinced Master to still call an ambulance. Thank God. Never seen Michael again, since I quit that martial arts class, because of unrelated reasons, but I imagine him being a front flip master by now, without the need for hand holding. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.